Welcome everybody to another shocking courtroom episode of Lockdown 23 in 1. That's right, we're jumping into a Michigan courtroom to speak about a man by the name of Mr. Dante Wright, who was 17 years old being charged for the brutal murder of Jordan Clee. And I'm not gonna lie, Mr. Wright is probably one of the most disrespectful defendants I've ever seen in the courtroom. No regards for the victim's family whatsoever. We're going to witness a little bit of that as well as the sentencing of this young man. But first, I'm going to break down exactly some of these sad details on why he's in the courtroom to begin with. So if this is what you're into, all things lockup and crime related, then this is where you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. In 2016, Jordan Clee lived with his mother, Karen, in Ann Arbor. His father passed away 4 months after his birth. He never met his father but did have a father figure, which was his grandfather. Karen tried her very best to give her son the best life even though she was a widow. Jordan was a very sporty and athletic kid. He was very good at biking and skiing, which were the sports his grandfather had taught him. He was also one of the best football players at his school, winning lots of awards. He was also very academically gifted, got really good grades. Jordan was good at math and anything related, also physics. That was how he decided engineering was a career he would head into. He planned to go to college at Michigan University. He also planned to join their football team. Unfortunately, Jordan didn't even get to make it to his high school graduation. Around 3 p.m. on October 4th, 2016, there was a maintenance worker on shift at an apartment complex at Pine Lake Village. However, at some point, he walked outside the building. He then found a young man on the floor not moving and had what appeared to be one singular gunshot wound to the head. However, regardless of how hopeless the situation, the maintenance worker called EMS, any emergency service he could contact. The police came down and the investigation was open. Immediately, the case was ruled as a homicide.
Investigators have been working diligently to try and track down all the leads and possible motive regarding this death. We have ruled it a homicide and we have determined that the victim was killed by a gunshot wound.
His family was immediately informed, but aside from the feeling of sadness and devastation, they were also confused as Jordan was supposed to be at school that very day he was killed.
We're not sure at this point why he was there at that particular time of day. There aren't a lot of people that are in the complex, so we're tracking down our witnesses.
They had never heard of any apartment complex where Jordan was shot. His mom had mentioned that Jordan didn't have any enemies. He was a nice boy and was good to people. A week after the incident, the police arrested 3 boys, a 17-year-old called Dante Wright, the other 2, Ellison, 19, and Gracie, 18. After much investigation of the trio, they believed that Dante was the leader of the group. Dante also happened to be in the same school year as Mr. Jordan. The incident was said to have been an attempted robbery by all 3 of the boys, and Dante was the one who was armed and shot Jordan. He was the murderer and expected to fare the worst in jail. He had no empathy and didn't even look sorry for what he had done in the courtroom. Dante also confessed that he intentionally shot Jordan Clee that day. He continued by saying that he was well aware that a shot to the head would be very hard to survive. And that was exactly why he aimed the gun at Jordan's head and pulled the trigger. He wanted to kill Jordan. Of course, Jordan had died instantly. The court had asked Dante if he knew if he had killed Jordan at that instant, and he replied nonchalantly that he was well aware that Jordan would not survive that shot and die after a few minutes. So that's pretty much the story of robbery gone wrong. And for someone, look, speaking from someone who's had plenty of experience in that field, there was never a point in doing dirt like that where I said, I'm gonna shoot this guy in the head. Even if they didn't kick what I was trying to get from him, man, I probably would have hauled ass because I ain't about to shoot no one over it, right? For someone to do this, man, they are just completely gone mentally. So this is a very sad case, and unfortunately, a young man's life was cut short. Someone with a bright future ahead of him, and that's the worst part about it. But let's go ahead and jump into a Michigan courtroom, all right? We're going to witness this guy's disrespect firsthand. Now, Mr. Wright pled guilty to the charges of armed robbery, conspiracy to commit armed robbery, felony firearm, and second-degree murder. You're going to see the mother and another family member, I believe, take the stand to speak about Mr. Jordan Clee. The mother's so overcome with emotions that she can't even speak. She has to have someone else speak for her. But while this is happening, watch the defendant and his rude reactions during the whole speech.
I sincerely hope that whatever it was you wanted so badly that you felt the need to murder my son was worth the next at least 52 years of your continued existence. You won't get the luxury of raising your child because you took mine away. Your actions have led you to a prison cell, but have also created an empty cell that I live in every day. While you can still hope to be released one day, I'll never escape my help. You are still alive, but Jordan has no future. Thank you, Your Honor. We're done.
Now, Mr. Wright and his attorney's about to take the stand to speak before the sentencing, and usually during this time, people get up there and express their apologies to the family and take complete responsibility for what they did and maybe speak about how they're going to better themselves in the future while they're in prison. But Mr. Wright, he's going to take that stand and probably say the most disrespectful stuff I've ever heard in a courtroom.
Your Honor, my client wants to address the court.
Oh, of course. Yes, sir. Mr. Wright, what would you like to say?
I just want to tell y'all I'll be home soon, or I'll be Keon. I love my family.
That's all you got to say.
You could tell that everyone in that courtroom is just completely shocked. They start talking amongst themselves all at once. And his attorney's just as shocked as well. I can guarantee that he had no idea what he was going to say. Public defender or paid attorney, it doesn't matter. They both would have told him never to say something like that. What's even crazier is he knows what he's about to get sentenced to for the most part, but he still says, "I'll be home soon." Absolute disrespect, especially to the victim's family, because, their son's never coming home. Right, so it's kind of like a spit in their face if you were to ask me. Now, the judge is going to open up a window here for the victim's family and the prosecution.
I have never in 23 years approximately ever not accepted a sentence agreement between the parties because it's bargained for, sentenced by the parties. But watching you sit there, smile and laugh and shake your head like this was no big deal, I'm very tempted to just say, I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial. And if you're convicted of felony murder, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there. That's what I'm tempted to do.
I mean, that should be the case to begin with, if you're to ask me. Wants to shoot someone point blank in the head, especially the way that he broke it down, knowing that that was going to be the kill shot. Come on, man. This guy don't deserve to see the streets ever again. Just my 2 cents, man. You know what I mean? But like I said, the judge opened up a window to speak to the victim's family and say, hey, do you want to just get rid of this plea deal? Which is, I believe, like 20 to 50 years. We're going to hear it at the end. But throw that out, start a whole new trial, and go for a life sentence. That's the option that the judge is given, which is, like he said, a major one, because he hasn't done something like this in the 23 years of him being a judge. Most people, when they get plea bargains, man, they jump on it and they stay with it. They don't do nothing to mess them up. Because if they do, then they'll get smoked 2 times, 3 times worse. Let's see what happens, if the family's going to take it or not.
Mr. Bella, do you want me to accept this sentence agreement?
Your Honor, before I answer the court's question, I would like an opportunity to discuss it with the victim's family.
Okay.
If the court would pass it, I would appreciate
I'd be
it.
happy to do that. We'll pass this matter.
I have had a very lengthy discussion with the victim's mother as well as his grandparents and some family members. They understand that obviously this is the defendant. He's shown absolutely no remorse. However, the Glee family does want to move on with this. They want to get some closure from this case. And they want to try and forgive this defendant, even though all of his actions for what he did. And they are asking, as well as the people, that you proceed with the sentence.
Okay.
Wow. So the family, that must have been a hard decision for him. But at the same time, you got to understand, this was probably kind of a long, drawn-out situation. I'm not quite sure, but it's a lot of pain to the victim's family. Having to come back and forth into these courtrooms and hear the details of the case. I can't even imagine hearing that stuff about, one of my children. But also, you got to take into consideration that you could possibly lose. I mean, anything can happen in the courtroom these days, with evidence or procedure being messed up. Anything could be dropped or dismissed, right? So that's the last thing the family wants, is to take it to trial to try to get this life sentence. And they lose, and he's walking free when they could have had him in prison for 20, 50 years. So all this stuff you got to weigh out when the judge gives you an option like that.
Your Honor, my client asked me to apologize to the court. His smiling was in no way meant as disrespectful either to the family, to the victim, or to this court. My client is 17 years old. He has some emotional problems and frankly was scared. And some people display fear by smiling. He really meant no disrespect. He does take this very seriously.
But the judge decided to go along with the family's wishes and continue with the plea deal. Mr. Wright was sentenced to 25 to 52 years. Now, let's see what he's been up to. Well, it looks like Mr. Wright grew some dreadlocks and got some prison tats, because he didn't have no neck tattoos in the courtroom. Gets a 6-point star. Looks like he ain't going down the right path, even in prison. And for those of y'all that don't know, anyone that goes into prison and gets something like that tattooed on them, chances are it's gang related. I'm not saying he is, I'm just saying, you know, when you see tats like that, you can only guess. But this image here is probably the most recent one, coming from 7/20/2023. His date of birth is 8/29/1999. His earliest release date is 9/28/2042. And if he gets in trouble in prison or anything along those lines, his maximum discharge date could be 9/28/2073. I hope he changes his life around in the penitentiary, but like I said, from the looks of it, he ain't doing too much of that. But that's a wrap to a very sad story, ladies and gentlemen. If you're to ask me, homeboy got blessed. You know, he might not be able to be released until 2042, whatever I said, at the earliest. But still, I mean, he took this guy's life in a brutal way. Most people, even for less of crimes, are sitting in prison for the rest of their life. So, yeah, to me, he got blessed. Getting tatted up in prison, probably eating swoles while the victim will never walk on this earth again. But as always, I gotta hear y'all's input in the comment section below. How do y'all feel about all this? And of course, as always, when we talk about cases like this, man, my condolences go out to the family of the loved ones lost. Very, very sad story. But stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I got plenty more content coming your way. And just a little update on the channel. I know a lot of y'all are enjoying the little short reels, the little skits I've been doing. But I'm not going to be doing them on this channel anymore. Look, I just can't stand the look of a bunch of reels on my main channel. So I'm going to pop them over there on 23-1. If you ain't a part of that one, go ahead and get on over there and get ready for some good skits. Not to mention reactions of any kind that I want. News bloopers, antique roadshow, whatever the hell I want to react to. And guess what? Nobody's going to be able to say nothing because it ain't all lockup and crime related like it is over here. So if that is what you're into, this is the place you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave if you haven't done so already. In the meantime, though, as always, ladies and gentlemen, y'all be easy, be safe, and more importantly than anything, stay free.